So this began as a collaboration between two people who were far away but would soon meet. So Alice was in Lima in Peru until yesterday, the day before yesterday. And I had just moved to Oxford when we started, and we decided we would try out having a sort of adventure coming towards each other, picking places in the continents as we sort of found our way to a middle point.
So we decided that the middle point should be Eridu, which is one of the kind of claimed cradles of civilization, and one of the places where writing is supposed to have emerged independently. So that's where we meet.
So I'm going to begin in a suburb outside Oxford called Headington, where I just moved to, and this is a poem about that and about some of the sort of ambivalence of moving house, and I thought it was a good moment to engage with some local history. So I found out there used to be a coral reef there. It was a major site of bull baiting, and C.S. Lewis found God on the road just up from where we live. So Headington. On this, the 55th day of settling, place of tonic and desertion, place of peace and cracks. On this, the 55th day, look up, look down, peer into thickened ground to be schooled, to take an inevitable pickling in local history, the white elephant store of anywhere. Be coached in the coral reef that once pricked a watery curb, the bull-baiting fad that strode these streets in 1782. The afternoon that C.S. Lewis rode the bus up Headington Hill and here said, God closed in on me. In pursuit of natural histories, I'm growing onions, beans and peas, watching tips shoot up, reach down. I'm scanning the very brink and waiting for the ghoul, its spark, its itch, its blade, its game. I set this compass east.
And my first poem is based in Lima, where I live. And when I wrote it, I was still pretty new to Lima. I'm still quite new to Lima. And the family of my boyfriend usually call me La Gringuita, which means the little foreigner, the little foreign girl. And the poem is called Portraits of Gringuita at 8 a.m. 17th of April, 8 a.m. Gringuita as seen in morning eyes. Gringuita framed by slept-in lashes. Gringuita as something indestructible. 18th of April, 8 a.m. Gringuita caught mid-air, launched by boot clip. Gringuita nerve steadied and snapshot. 19th of April, 8 a.m. Triptych. Gringuita watching tongue on YouTube. Tongue, rests low, arches upwards, flutters. Arrr. Gringuita scrunches eyes, arranges mouth, exhales. Arrr. 20th of April, 8 a.m. Gringuita plans a journey. Cradle weary, Gringuita Googles others. 21st of April, 8 a.m. Gringuita is Google Map junkie. 22nd of April, 8 a.m. Gringuita up, Gringuita dancing, Gringuita hip high, mouth wide, pero que clase de rumba, pa pa pa, Gringuita, que clase de rumba. 24th of April, 8 a.m. Google Map junkie is going nowhere, is hungover from Gringuita proof pisco. 24th of April, 8 a.m. Moving picture. Face, laptop lit. Zoom in, La Rumorosa. Zoom out, Mexico. Google, I'm feeling lucky.
So the next place that Alice sent me from Headington was a village in Romania called Sapanța, and it turns out that this village is famous for its merry cemetery, which since the 1930s has been filled with these tombstones, which are covered in really bright paintings and also kind of comic verse, which tells the story of the people who are buried there. So I'm in Romania, at the Merry Cemetery. For a short period of time, I came to be buried in the Sapanța cemetery. I was advised this was a rare place a body might pause, to be heaped with a certain kind of wry benevolence. I learnt that she who sought the new dormancy was welcome here. I arrived late afternoon, in good time for the committal, sun-beached and casual. I wandered the faithful walkways of the site, surveying each mosaic in its pristine blues to spy grinning moons, loping hounds, the twist of customary skirts. Each plot is of course marked by skittish verse, to priest, mother-in-law, the man next door. I had readily composed my own in brisk, finely griping couplets. I heeded that my round and indistinct head, once such a source of gnarly discomfort, was here depicted in good-natured caricature, fashioned from the requisite blues, blacks and whites. I saw that all was in order, noting the cemetery to be largely absent of relations, but peopled instead by clumps of guileless out-of-towners, here to photograph the graves. And so, at 8 o'clock, I moved quietly to my plot, the master of graves nodding lightly as I took up my position. I directed him to sling the earth across my glad chest. I set my clock. I closed my eyes.
And my second place where I was sent is La Rumarosa. It's in Mexico, near to the border with the US. There's no border crossing there. It's just a very mountainous area. And in this place, there are lots of ancient cave paintings. La Rumarosa. Mountains structure the space, pull apart the air and make room for stars and breathing. We breathe ancient things. We watch caves, faces framed cross-legged. Eyelids flicker on the rooted man. He carves his route to the earth and shadow. We pray our own way down. Diabolo chalks our hands into abstract, persuades us to hold tight watch on the night. Diabolo offers us a brown-red raft. We can only take it proudly, can only stand in this place ringed by patiently cut rays, by that certainty amid chaos. A certain number of circles, a certain pattern of dashes, dots, a certain piling of symbols. Have you seen the way they draw that which they must conquer always smaller than themselves, making the world as it must be for survival? Show us how we might survive too, how our straight spikes of hair might reach from this globe to the top of the stone, suggest to the visitor that a taller rock might reveal clouds dancing upon these boldly drawn tips.
So the next and penultimate the last place that I got sent to was Sud, which is a large swamp in South Sudan, and it's particularly dense and difficult to pass through. And the word Sud derives from the Arabic word sad, two Ds, which means barrier or obstacle. And there have been various plans to build canals or ways to pass this from the early 20th century, but they've always been halted by wars or by complicated financial things. So it's about a swamp. Sud. Sud means barrier, means block, means swamp, means mud, means sluggish clumps of weed, means boat bottoms gummed and sucked to stagnancy, means papyrus thrives in greens and golds, means eyes, means nudge, means push, means machine, means drive the black mud's back, means buttress, means business, means bullets, means stalemate, means halt, means lagoon glint still, means buried roots, means loose roots, means deep flooded superficial roots, means a tilt of colour yet, means the painted hunting dog prowls, means crocodiles, means life, means blood, means money, means block, means barrier, means swamp, means.
So then Kate sent me to a place in Alaska with a very nice name. It's called Nightmute. And there's not very much there. It's a mining area, lots of rivers, lots of ice, somewhere in Alaska. Nightmute and the moon. The rivers est themselves so extravagantly at the top of the world, as if the earth got confused, thought rivers should dominate, and earth find its place between. Or like it spent too much time looking upwards, decided to make craters of grey water to mimic the moon, and the moon, confused by its inaccurate imitation, says, "You who look up are not the moon, you are the top of the world, or almost. You are the open space, a place to imagine miracles where children form a huddle on cold cement to worship snowflakes flying and the old recognize their falling. And in this moment, after it is too late but before the grief begins, you are the ecstasy. I knew this when ancient women adored me, before they forgot how I created their life into red and white, into life and death. I remember their words in the space between, when the inevitable is already inevitable but still unseen, and they have never cried or drank or loved so hard."
And so we've arrived. We meet in Eridu, this place in what is now Iraq in Mesopotamia, and we wrote two complete but intersecting pantoums. So the thing that I've explored the history of writing, which is what the first writing was in this place in 322 BCE, was where the first writing we think began with clay tablets, which were etched with styluses made of reeds, and this was also the place where the Tower of Babel was thought perhaps to have stood.
And I explored another myth related to this area. The city is supposed to be founded by Enki, a god. And there's a myth where there's a goddess called Tiamat, and there's a kind of crisis, and she refuses to help the gods. So Enki breaks her apart to make the world and to make man. So this is kind of the myth of how men came to be. Okay. Making the cradle.
History of writing.
The sacred marriage.
The first true writing arose
Between salt and sweet water
between Persian Gulf and Ur.
was chaos, creator goddess.
Here was Eridu, first city of kings.
Did not give patterns to live by.
Its given name, the mighty place.
Between salt and sweet water,
Between Persian Gulf and Ur,
only 1 million atoms, each in single combat,
there once could be counted kings and gods,
each proclaiming a pattern to live by.
who named themselves mighty.
To make man, she was broken.
To scribe they took clay and reeds,
Her atoms divided by a single combatant.
these kings and their numberless gods,
She is made into halves.
and they marked cuts and slits.
To make man, she is broken.
To script they took the clay,
Half her ribs are plucked to prop the sky.
and split a blunt reed to a stylus.
She is made into one half.
They marked cuts and slits,
It is made to line the earth.
and carved the message,
Half her ribs cry to hold the sky.
blunting reeds to style a new tongue,
And her tears too divide.
that split the clay with text.
Into rivers that outline the earth.
They carved the message.
All tributaries draw the Tigris, Euphrates.
Before the Tower of Babel,
A pattern of tears divided.
saw the earth's words split,
And for man, his order.
to make mute a rubble of confusion.
All waters pay tribute to Tigris, Euphrates.
And so here stood Babel,
The sacred marriage.
where brimmed the first writing,
And for man, his order made.
amid confusion's rubble,
Out of chaos, the creator goddess.
in Eridu, once city of kings.